Many people only use scallions as a seasoning, unaware that when combined with mushrooms, they can create a very fragrant, tender, and easy-to-eat dish. This dish is especially suitable for the elderly because it's simple to make, uses familiar ingredients, and isn't greasy. Today, I'll share a very easy recipe that you can make at home. The more you eat, the tastier it gets, and it's perfect with rice. Here, I've prepared the scallions after cleaning them. Now I'll wash them thoroughly before cooking. I put all the scallions in a large bowl for easier handling. Next, I add about 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of flour. This is a little trick that many older people often use to clean vegetables. Baking soda helps clean dirt and impurities clinging to the surface, while flour absorbs fine dust or dirt remaining between the scallion leaves. Then, I pour water into the bowl and gently rub and stir to dissolve the baking soda and flour in the water. After mixing, I let the scallions soak in the water for a while. This method helps clean the scallions more thoroughly without scrubbing too hard. While waiting for the scallions to soak, I'll quickly prepare the mushrooms to save time. Next, I prepared a handful of enoki mushrooms to cook with green onions. Enoki mushrooms have a naturally mild sweetness, are soft, and very easy to eat, especially suitable for the elderly because they are not too hard or difficult to chew. First, I cut off the roots at the bottom of the mushrooms. Then, I slice the mushrooms horizontally into sections, as shown in the video, so that they are easier to eat and absorb the seasoning better. After cutting, I used my hands to separate the mushrooms into small clumps. This step prevents the mushrooms from sticking together when cooking and ensures they cook more evenly when stir-fried or boiled. Once separated, I put all the mushrooms into a large bowl. Then I added about 1 teaspoon of baking soda and poured enough water to cover the mushrooms. Baking soda helps to clean better, helping to remove any dirt clinging to the mushroom strands. Next, I gently squeezed and stirred the mushrooms to dissolve them in the water and ensure even contact with the mushrooms. You only need to gently squeeze the mushrooms to avoid crushing them. Then, let the mushrooms soak in water for a while. While waiting for the mushrooms and onions to be thoroughly cleaned, I'll take the opportunity to prepare some additional vegetables and mix the sauce so that the finished dish will be richer and tastier. Now I'll prepare a few more vegetables to make the dish more colorful and less greasy. First, the cucumber. I cut off the ends, then halved the cucumber lengthwise. Next, I sliced it crosswise into small bite-sized pieces and placed them on a separate plate. Cucumbers are cool and crunchy, so when eaten with mushrooms and green onions, they help balance the dish and prevent it from being too greasy. Next, the carrots. I sliced them diagonally into thin slices first. Then stacked the slices and continued slicing them into thin strips. This slicing method makes the carrots look nicer when cooked, and they also cook and are easier to eat, especially suitable for the elderly. After slicing, I also placed them on a separate plate. Next, the garlic. I prepared a few cloves of garlic, peeled and washed. Then I sliced them thinly and then minced them. Garlic is an ingredient that greatly enhances the aroma of the dish, so I usually add it at the beginning of cooking. Next is the green onion. I chop it finely and put it on a separate plate for easy use later. Green onions not only make the dish more fragrant, but also add a very appealing green color. Finally, the chili peppers. I chop them finely and put them on a separate plate as well. You can adjust the amount of chili peppers according to your family's taste. If you don't like spicy food, just add a little to create a mild aroma. Next, I'll prepare the sauce. I take a small bowl and add 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. The soy sauce will add a light, salty flavor and a nice color to the dish. Next, I add a little sesame oil. Then, I add about half a teaspoon of MSG to balance the flavor and make the dish more savory. Next, I add a little oyster sauce. This ingredient will help the sauce have a milder taste and add depth to the flavor. Finally, I add 1 tablespoon of flour. The flour here will help the sauce thicken slightly when cooked, coating the mushrooms and vegetables evenly, making the dish tastier. Then I add enough water and stir well with a spoon until all the ingredients are combined. You should stir thoroughly to ensure the flour dissolves completely, avoiding lumps during cooking. Once the mixture is smooth and even, I set it aside for later use. Now, let's go back to the scallions that were soaked earlier. After soaking for the required time, I drained all the scallions and rinsed them again with clean water. This step completely removes the baking soda, flour, and any remaining dirt, ensuring the scallions are cleaner before cooking. After rinsing, I let the scallions drain a little before placing them on a cutting board for further preparation. Because the bunch of scallions is quite long, I'll cut them in half to make them easier to handle during cooking, and also to help them cook evenly and absorb the seasoning better. After cutting, I put the scallions in a colander to drain further. Next, I returned to the enoki mushrooms that had been soaked earlier. After soaking for the required time, I rinsed the mushrooms thoroughly with clean water to completely remove any remaining baking soda and dirt between the mushroom strands. When rinsing, I handled them gently because enoki mushrooms are quite soft. Squeezing them too hard will easily crush them and ruin their appearance when cooked. After rinsing, I drained the mushrooms and placed them in a colander to dry. Now that the water in my pot has started to boil, I'll begin preparing the main ingredients. First, I add a little olive oil. Just a small amount is enough. This helps the vegetables retain their vibrant color after blanching and makes the dish look more appealing. Next, I blanch the green onions. Green onions are quite soft, so I don't leave them in for too long or wait for the water to boil vigorously again. Just 2 to 3 minutes is enough to soften them. If you leave them in for too long, they will become mushy, lose their flavor, and their color will also fade. Then I quickly remove the green onions and immediately put them in a bowl of cold water. This helps the onions retain their beautiful green color and also slightly firm them up, making them tastier when cooked further. Next are the enoki mushrooms and carrots. I put both of these ingredients into the pot of water to blanch them briefly. Carrots need to be slightly softer to be easy to eat, and mushrooms only need to be cooked until just tender, because overcooking will make them mushy. After blanching, I remove both the mushrooms and carrots and put them in the same bowl with the scallions. Once all the ingredients are in one bowl, I mix them well with my hands to combine them. Then, I gently squeeze to remove excess water. This step is quite important because if the ingredients are too watery, the sauce will be too thin and the dish will be less flavorful. After draining the ingredients relatively well, I transfer everything to another bowl. Now we'll move on to the main cooking stage, which is also the step that helps all the ingredients blend together and create the perfect flavor for the dish. First, I place a pan on the stove and add a little olive oil, just enough to infuse the ingredients with aroma. You don't need too much, because this dish is light and easy to eat. When the oil starts to heat up, I add the chopped chilies and stir-fry them. Immediately after that, I add the minced garlic and green onions. At this point, I stir well over low heat so that the ingredients gradually release their aroma. When the ingredients have reached the desired level of aroma, I pour the prepared sauce into the pan. At this point, you should stir gently to mix the seasoning evenly with the oil and the aromatic ingredients. Once it reaches this consistency, I turn off the heat immediately. Next, before pouring the sauce over the prepared vegetables, I put the cucumber in the bowl first. The cucumber will add a refreshing crispness to the dish, making it easier to eat, especially with dishes that have rich sauces. Then, I pour all the hot sauce I just cooked over the bowl of vegetables, including green onions, mushrooms, carrots, and cucumber. The heat from the sauce will help the ingredients release their aromas and absorb the flavors faster. Finally, I use chopsticks or gloves to mix thoroughly so that all the ingredients are evenly coated with sauce. You should mix gently but thoroughly so that each vegetable absorbs the seasoning without becoming mushy. Once everything is completely blended, I serve the dish on a plate to enjoy. This dish is quite easy to incorporate into everyday meals because it's simple to make, uses familiar ingredients, and isn't too greasy. In particular, the dish is soft, easy to chew, light yet flavorful, making it very suitable for the elderly or those who prefer easily digestible, non-greasy dishes. If you're looking to spice up your family meals with a simple yet delicious dish, you can try this recipe. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next cooking tips.